This idea of should has haunted me my entire life. Okay, haunted is a little bit dramatic, but I have to say that it has made an outsized impact on the majority of decisions that I've ever made. And when I really think about it, I'm not a fan. Hey there friends, I'm Matt, a joyful human who's working to live life on purpose. On this channel, we discuss how to live life more purposefully, mindfully, and effectively. Today, let's discuss this idea of should and see if we can't find a better way forward. So let's start off with a few of the reasons why I don't think should is that great. First and foremost, I think that it's entrenched in the expectation of others. When I think of this idea of I should do something, the main reason, the main motivation for that is because of somebody else's incentives as opposed to any of mine. And in my experience, what I found myself doing whenever I should do something and I go forth with that is I'm really trying to seek the approval of others. In extreme cases, I'm trying to seek the love of others. And I don't really want to live my life that way. I'd rather live my life authentically. I'd rather live my life in the way that I really want to, and then see who else comes along for the ride. See who else shows their love and their appreciation for who I am authentically. After all, I'm the only one that's with myself 100% of the time, so I might as well find peace with that and then allow all the other people around me to be able to fall into place as they will. The second issue that I have with should is that it comes from this air of superiority. It comes from this air of judgment. I'm not going to talk about how I feel whenever other people tell me I should do something, because that's outside of my control what they end up doing. But what I really wanted to reflect upon is what is it like whenever I'm telling somebody else, you should do this, you should do that. And what I realize is that comes from this air of me thinking that I'm better than another person and I'm prescribing something for them. But who am I to do that? There's many problems with that, but the main problem being I don't see the full picture of their lives. I can't see the full picture of anybody else's lives outside of my own. I don't know their past, I don't know their present, I don't know their motivations, I don't know their why. And so without all of that information, I'm in no place to be able to tell another person what to do. Also, it'd be like throwing rocks from a glass house. I have enough things that I need to deal with in my own life, so anytime that I'm spending out there, like giving energy to the world that's not just love, that's not positivity, that is not helpfulness, that is real judgment, that's just a waste of time, because really what I should be doing is looking internally and figuring out what I can do. And the third main reason is actually something that's bigger, I think, than the other two, and it's something that's come into my life quite recently. Even the idea of should has this connotation that there is one best way to do something. There's infinite ways for life to be able to exist. There's infinite ways for us to be able to live our lives and the decisions that we end up making. How is it that we're able to determine just one way of going forth? Because to me, that's what that connotation is. When I should do something, that means that that is the best way as opposed to everything else. But how do I know that? With my limited mind, with my limited perspective, how am I able to determine that? And so what I found whenever I started going down that rabbit hole of thinking is I realized that that is just lazy thinking on my part. Whenever I find myself trying to simplify the world so much more, trying to say, oh, I only have 2 or 3 options, oh, this is the best thing to do, there is no one best thing to do. There's just way too many factors in play. So even this idea of should, taking out this idea of the expectation of others, taking out this idea of superiority, I think that it's really this mirage. Because at the end of the day, we're just experimenting all throughout life. I like to say that I'm no guru. I'm just another human who's trying to do my best in this thing called life. And this thing called life, I really think is just an experiment. And it's an experiment where we do our best each and every day, we make our decisions, and then we just see where the chips may fall from that. Because even if we do everything the way that we should do them, I mean, granted, there's so many different pieces of advice out there as to how we should do things, life is still going to have so many other variables that are outside of our control. So at the end of the day, I think should is a mirage. Okay, so once I came up with those reasons why I don't like the word should, I started to reflect upon my own life and to think about those times when I used it quite frequently in the past. In that reflection, I realized that I mostly use it as the justification, as the reason for why I needed to do things that I didn't actually want to do. For example, I should go to this work event because my boss wants me to. Or I should start reaching out to these people because connecting is just what you're supposed to be doing with other people at this point of life. Or maybe it's I should start this habit because all successful people do this habit. Or I should start eating healthier. Well, actually, that's actually something that I want to start doing. But I digress. What I was essentially doing is I was ceding control of my own life. I was making myself a victim in that story because now that other people said I should do a thing, well, that's the reason that I should. What control do I have? What power do I have? Those were some of the questions that I asked myself. And now whenever I answer that, the answer is I have a lot of power because my mindset has shifted. I now, instead of saying, oh, I should go do something because it's the expectation of others, I decide I'm going to do something or I'm not going to do something because I want to or don't want to do it for my own reasons, and I'll live with the consequences. Because at the end of the day, I'd rather be in the driver's seat of my own life, making the decisions and living with each and every one of the consequences, as opposed to giving away all that control, being a victim in my own life, and not living nearly as fully as I could. So in the past, it would be a frequent thing for me to bring up problems without any sort of solution. The equivalent of blowing something up without any expectation or any idea of what I would be able to build in its place. And I don't really like doing that because I don't think that's the most effective way to live. So here's some ideas of words that I've started to use instead of should that I think are much more effective. The first one is want. I want to do something. Because to me, that carries this idea that I have the actual desire. It's my intrinsic reasons, whatever those may be, that I'm going onto a certain task, that I'm starting a certain habit, whatever that thing may be. In addition, it makes it so that if things go wrong, I have nobody else to blame but myself. Whenever I say I should do something, I always have that idea of, okay, if this doesn't go right or if this thing blows up, well, that's somebody else's problem because they are the one that actually wanted to do it. I just followed along. But now I'm taking more ownership of my life, and it really gives me more of that control, and it also gives me much more of a peace because I'm doing the things that I actually want to do. The second one, which I think is even better word to use, is I will do something. Want has this idea of I want to do this in the future. It can be used in so many different contexts. I want to travel the globe. I want to learn to speak 5 languages. I want to do this and that and that. And it's easy to be able to state all those things that we want to do. However, taking it to that next step of will makes it so that yes, I have the desire to, but also I'm going to be taking those steps moving forward. It's more of a commitment there that still carries this idea of this is an intrinsically motivated reason. There is some reason from within me as opposed to it being something that is prescribed by somebody else. And on the flip side, I also use their opposites. I do not want to, or I will not do something. Because I think those are just as, maybe even more powerful than the positive ones. The reason for that is we all have limited time in the day. There are so many things that I want to be able to do, and maybe I can say yes to them over the course of my life if I'm blessed to be able to live a long time. But if I say yes to all of them at this moment, then nothing ends up getting done. And whenever I say I do not want to do something or I will not do something, that can so easily shut it down. Because sometimes this idea of should, to me, has left the door open. It's like, I should do that. And then so there's still mental energy being placed towards, okay, how am I going to work that into my routine? How am I going to work that into my life? However, whenever I'm much more definitive, a big idea of this came from the book Hell Yeah or No by Derek Sivers. This idea of saying no to things if it's not a hell yeah, if you're not so excited about it. It has really helped because then there's no more pestering. There's no more trying to be convinced by other people. And for me, I have more of that closure. I made a video about this idea of no. I really don't think it's that good, but if you do want to check it out, it'll be somewhere on the screen here. And then there's the last word, which I actually think is the best one, and it's I did something. I did this, I did that. Because those other words, want and will, those are expressing intent. Different levels of intent, different levels of the process. But did is that thing where, it's already finished. Because that's, at the end of the day, a life that I want. I don't want a life where I intended to do so many things. I don't have a life where, yes, I wanted to do so many things, because those are easy. It's just like the idea of something is easy. What's difficult is actually the execution. But the execution, being able to say I did something, that's where real progress has a chance of being made. So many people, unfortunately, they die and they leave these great ideas. They leave this great potential for life. They didn't do the things. And there's various reasons for that. I have no idea about their lives, but I know for me, that's not a life that I want to live. I want to be able to say, I did all of these various things, not from the stance of an ego, but I did share love. I did share positivity. I did create these things that maybe made the world just a little bit of a better place. So when I'm looking to replace the word I should do something, I would rather I did these things that truly brought me joy and maybe made the world a better place along the way. So that's my case for why it might behoove us to stop using the word should so often. Or at least those are the reasons why I've largely omitted it from my own life. But I'm surely not prescribing that you should stop using the word should. Wouldn't that be ironic? At the end of the day, that decision rests solely with you. And honestly, because that decision rests solely with you, I really don't care what you choose because that's completely outside my control. That sounds quite brutal, but I really don't mean it to be. I know that you can make that best decision for you. Well, if this content vibes with you, I'd encourage you to hit the subscribe button for more so that we can continue this journey together. Either way, I'm sending you so much love, my friends. I hope that today you have the best day ever. Bye now.